Tick-tock, time to rock.
Tick-tock.
That was awesome. All right. Well, good evening and good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from around the world. Did anyone stay up from the lonely Isle of Great Britain? Is anyone still awake in Great Britain? Because I just want to warn you in advance, we're going to be saying some pretty harsh things about your country and your government. Just so you know.
Very mean. Very mean.
Oh, it's going to be mean. It's going to be mean. With love from London. With love from London, X than you. I don't know what that means. What's X than you mean? Is that
love from London, X than you? I don't know. Must be some new language. I'm not very familiar with that.
We got Callum Hayes, 1 a.m. here in England. Run to Christ says, hey, yeah, me. Sally says, me. The Nay H2 says, where is Sam? Sam had to head back up to Chicago, but we've got some stuff.
Well, we have me here.
We've got some stuff cooking up. But yeah, we got the Apostate Prophet. And on this issue, I'd rather have the Apostate Prophet. If we were talking about Muslim criticisms of the deity of Christ or something like that, yeah, you got to have Sam Shamoun. Sam Shamoun's the best in history. But if we're talking about governments and organizations and so on cracking down on people because of their speech, you got to go with the Apostate Prophet here. You got to go with someone like Tommy Robinson or Robert Spencer, someone who's in the process of being banned or being deplatformed by whether it's politicians or CEOs or trust and safety teams or whatever. So AP, Apostate Prophet, for anyone here who doesn't know you yet, i.e. if they're tuning in for the first time to a live stream, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining. I am Apostate Prophet, or I am Ridvan Aydemir, also known as Apostate Prophet. I have my own YouTube channel right here. It should be somewhere around here. It's currently growing very, very rapidly. I'm a former Muslim who studied Islam very, very diligently and practiced it very strictly. And yeah, I think that's all I can say right now.
All right. Well, we do have quite a few people here from various places in the UK as well as Scotland. So why don't you guys tell me what you think about your country? Because again, we're going to be saying some very harsh things about your country, and we want to know how you feel, right? Because it could be, yeah, the government just did something that's kind of messed up, but man, the UK, apart from that, is the greatest country in the history of the universe. In which case, we're going to hurt your feelings. On the other hand, you might be, hey, wow, this place has become really, really messed up, and so you're probably going to agree with a lot of the things that we say. AP, what do you? Why don't you tell everyone why this would be an important issue for someone like you, right? Because I just see lots of people going, oh, but Tommy Robinson's such a jerk. Tommy Robinson says such mean things. Tommy Robinson holds all these positions that I don't hold. Why should we care? And I say, my goodness, guys, if you get to a position where you think it's okay for the government to block and lock up and ban from platforms people for positions that you don't agree with, wow, you have a really, really low view of the significance of free speech.
Absolutely.
And don't come crying to me. Don't come crying to me when you're next, because put it this way, everyone who sits around either quiet or cheering, even worse would be cheering, when people get deplatformed and banned and silenced. Those of you who, again, either cheer or just remain silent, when they come when the same organizations and platforms and governments and politicians and so on come to you, come after you, don't come crying to me, because I'm going to be like, wow, you approved it before, or you didn't care before, so too bad.
That's asking for it.
Yeah. So why would this be an important issue for someone in your position?
Well, I would say Again, as you just said, I just tweeted about that earlier. I tweeted about that a few days ago about Tommy Robinson. Or whenever we talk about it, there are people who say, well, Tommy Robinson is an annoying guy. Tommy Robinson holds these views and this and that. And they list all the stuff they disagree with and stuff that I disagree with personally, too. I'm not completely in agreement with everything Tommy Robinson says and does. But that is completely not the point. The point is that that Tommy Robinson, has a right to say many of the things that he says. And the point is that big companies, big organizations, or the government can't find the legitimate reasons to shut this person up and make up lies about him. Like recently, we have seen when he was banned from Facebook. The last one was Facebook, right? When he was banned from Facebook,
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, it was said about him that he incited violence against Muslims, for example. That was all over the media, but that never happened. There was not a case where he incited violence against Muslim groups at all. He didn't do that. You could find that everywhere. If he did something like that, he would be prosecuted for that in the UK, but he didn't. So people are trying to bring up false, people are trying to make false allegations in order to silence this person. In that, I think it's very important that we speak up, because Tommy Robinson is being prosecuted because he speaks up against something that is a taboo to speak about. He speaks up against grooming gangs, against common child rape and rape among Muslims and Muslim gangs, and that bothers authorities very, very much. That bothers the media and left-leaning organizations and politicians and people very much, as we have seen only today in the House of Commons, for example. There was a talk about demanding Tommy Robinson to be banned from YouTube. They want to put more pressure on YouTube so that he loses his last place on social media, which is crazy. But apart from that, I would say I even agree to some extent with the work that he does, especially in going on the street and speaking against Muslim groups, Muslim grooming gangs, and so on. Because me, I used to be an immigrant in Germany, a Muslim immigrant in Germany, and I have lived among immigrants for a very, very long time. So and anyone else who lives in Europe who is from among immigrants, or who has very, very good experiences with immigrants, with immigrants with Islamic backgrounds, with Muslim backgrounds, knows that that something in those communities is not very right. It was very common among certain groups of Muslim immigrants to be extremely how would you say that? To be extremely disrespectful against the locals, against the law, against the local culture, against the religion that the local people hold, and so on. So when people say now that Tommy Robinson has said a few bad things about Muslims before, or has said a few bad things that Muslims do, that is nothing, because if he was a Muslim right now, if he was a Muslim activist right now, and he said he said all the things that he said about Muslims before, about Christians or about white people, nothing would have happened to him. And everyone knows that. Everyone who lives in Europe knows that. There is absolutely no denying that. But all that aside, no matter what you think of Tommy Robinson, no matter if you think he's right or wrong, Tommy Robinson did nothing wrong. He tried to bring the truth out to people. He tried to speak. His speech was silenced. And while they are prosecuting and persecuting him for what he does, for speaking, for journalism, for spreading information, they are also letting people go who genuinely threaten violence, who genuinely dox people, who genuinely commit terrorist activities, and who run grooming gangs and are part of grooming gangs. That's why we are here to speak.
And what he got into for the most recent trouble he was into was for reporting on a grooming gang case, right? These guys were going to court. And just to be clear, I'm kind of in the same ballpark with AP here. Namely that I'm sure I don't agree with all of Tommy's positions. I don't even follow a lot of what goes on in the UK in terms of politics. I can't tell you what the British different political groups mean. I don't know what the different parties even mean. So I don't follow a lot of that. I don't follow a lot of what's going on. I did follow this, right? I did follow this particular story from the time when it was breaking last year, when he was reporting on the grooming gangs. And he was reporting for about an hour. He was just on Facebook Live on his camera phone outside the courthouse. He at times went up to the police to say, hey, you know, where should I stand? Can I stand on the could I stand on the stairs, or where do I stand? Do I stand out here, and so on? So he was being very careful not to do anything that he believed was breaking the law. And so far as he's explained what the law is, he was banned from providing any sort of information about the trial as it was ongoing that wasn't already in the public domain, right? Mm-hmm. Any information that wasn't already, on the BBC or anything else, right? So as the court case is going on, he's not allowed to be going out and sharing information because, if this trial is going on, then the jury, they go home and they're looking it up and they're getting information that this guy's sharing that might not have been shared in the trial, things like that. So that's the idea behind the ban. Now this is just so everyone knows, this is very weird to people in America, because in America they don't stop reporters from talking about it if they're worried about information potentially prejudicing a jury. They sequester the jury, right? They tell the jury, you're not allowed to go online. If they're really worried, they'll put the jury in a hotel room with no internet access. That's what they'll do. But you don't stop people from speaking about it. But the law in the UK is different. They can order you not to report on an ongoing trial. So that's what happened to Tommy. But here's the thing: he didn't. I watched that entire live stream. He didn't give any new information. He was the information that he was given, he was reading straight out of articles that were already available online. So you just can't figure out what in the world this guy was doing. The idea that he spent months in prison over standing outside of a courthouse and reporting some information is absolutely horrifying to anyone with any respect for freedom of speech or freedom of the press. So, but it's not just that. He went to jail, then prison, and at first they had him in a prison that had a minority Muslim population. Then he went then they moved him to another prison that had a much larger Muslim population. And when they first brought him food, so he ate his food when they first brought it to him, and then the Muslims started coming up to him going, so how was the food, Tommy? These were the guys who were preparing his food in the kitchen. So Tommy, who is notorious, was having his food prepared by Muslim inmates in the kitchen. And so basically he stopped eating any of the kitchen food. And I think he said he ate like a can of tuna and a piece of fruit per day. If you saw a video of him, you can still look up the footage, but if you saw footage of him after he got out of prison, he looked like a ghost. It was like a skeleton with some skin over him. It did not look like the same Tommy Robinson. It looked like he was messed up psychologically. If you look at cameras are pointing at him, he's not able to look in people's eyes and so on. Like this guy had been seriously traumatized. Anyway, the idea is if you wanted to say, hey, your understanding of the law was that you can't give any new information, and you didn't, but somehow we have this extra rule that you're not aware of, that you're not allowed to talk about it at all in our country, in the UK. You can't talk about it at all. And therefore, we're going to charge you with something. If that were the case, what should the penalty have been? The penalty should have been something like this. Little smack on the hand, little smack on the wrist. That's what the penalty should have been. Not months of what amounts to physical and psychological torture, right? Because that's what he actually got. So for everyone who hasn't followed the story, we're going to watch a clip from Tommy's video that he posted earlier today about them bringing back the trial. For those who didn't follow it, basically what happened was he spent months locked up for this. The media were reporting absolute lies. They were saying, the media, because I was reading the articles, what was going on. And the media were reporting that he had gone in there, admitted what he had done, admitted that he was wrong, pleaded guilty, and he was sentenced to this time and so on. So I looked at that and said, well, we don't know exactly what happened. Maybe he did knowingly do something wrong and admitted it and pleaded guilty. And so I guess that's on him. Meanwhile, months later, he gets out, turns out to be total nonsense. He never pleaded guilty. He said he never even had an opportunity to do that. They just basically rushed him through a little sham trial, stuck him in jail. Massive disgrace. I mean, it's I would be horrified if you treated a serial killer like that, right? I mean, here in the United States, where you're guaranteed access to a fair trial and so on, to do that to someone he's reporting on grooming gangs. Now, guys, why is he reporting on grooming gangs? Because the British government protected these grooming gangs for years, right? For years while they were doing it, because they didn't want to be called racist. So they would keep all of this quiet. So here's my position, AP, and you can tell me yours. My position is this, right? If the government, if officials, if social workers and educators and police and the government, if they spend years ignoring basically, I mean, obvious facts about the things that were going on with Muslim grooming gangs, drugging, giving alcohol to grooming, and turning 12, 13-year-old girls into their sex slaves. For years, thousands of girls across the UK. If I were in the UK and I looked at that and I would say, okay, the one thing I know right now is that I cannot trust you, the government, to give us the truth about this matter. I cannot trust you, the government, to do what's right in this situation. Therefore, I'm going to be the one who goes out and reports on this. I'm going to go talk about this. But here's the situation. You got Tommy, he goes out and reports on it, and they lock him up. So you can't trust the government to do anything about this. But if you try to bring attention to it yourself, they actually lock you up the first chance they get. Mm-hmm. What do you think on that?
Oh, totally agree.
Horrifying stuff.
Horrifying.
Let me take a question right here before I start talking about the British government. This one's for both of us.
I thought we were going to watch the video. Right?
Oh, yeah. Let's take a quick question. I'm going to calm down, and then I'm going to rant about the British government after we watch a clip. Here's a quick question. This is David Wood and Apostate Prophet. What are your views on Tariq Fatah and Imam Tawhidi and other peaceful and anti-extremist Muslim intellectuals? What's your position on the Imam of Peace and so on?
What is mine? I don't have many. I don't really know what to think about Tariq Fatah. I'm not very familiar with everything he does. I think I'm following him on Twitter. I saw that he is very active in kind of bringing the news about Pakistan to the world and about different stuff that is going on in the Islamic world and among Muslims. He talks quite often about Islam. I don't really know what his motives completely are. I'm not very familiar with Tariq Fatah. I'm quite familiar with Imam Tawhidi. I had a conversation with him before here on YouTube. Unfortunately, I had to delete it because half the conversation was it was impossible to listen to that because of technical issues. But I had my differences with him. I actually had a pretty harsh discussion with him here on my channel, in which I asked him again and again and again to explain to me what his ideal version of Islam is and what his ideal version of a Muslim is, because he sees himself as a person who wants to reform Muslims. He says not reform Islam but reform Muslims. So I asked him, if you want to reform Muslims, based on what do you want to reform them? Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to reform Islam, then what kind of Islam do you want to propose? But he never really answered the question. I mean, he gave so many responses in which he kind of talked his way around that several times, but he never really answered the question. He has some issues that are a little bit curious about him, but in general, he's very active in criticizing the general Sunni sentiments, the general Sunni Muslims mentality, and what radical Muslims or mainstream Muslims even do around the world, especially in countries like Pakistan. But the thing is, I have many questions about him, but I didn't want to really speak about him in public very much until I know what his answer to my questions is. And my questions are basic questions that many other people have as well. So I contacted him very recently and asked him if I could have a conversation with him, because I don't want to judge him without talking to him. He said he would do that, but he is currently going through some issues where he's under several contracts and this and that. So I'll have to wait to get my answers from him. But for now, I think he's doing a good job in addressing issues within the Sunni Muslim community, especially within Islamic countries, within Islamist countries. But there are some things that I still find problematic about him, and many other people do as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my position on the Muslim reformers is that, yeah, I hope they have some success in de-radicalizing someone, but the bottom line is Islam means submission. It means submission to Allah. How do you submit to Allah? You submit to Allah by unquestioningly obeying the commands of Allah and the commands of Muhammad, found in the Quran and the Hadith. And once you start straying from that, once you start saying, no, you don't follow these things, no, you don't follow Muhammad's command to violently subjugate the entire world, it's no longer really Islam. So, you hope, hey, please de-radicalize as many people as you can. But do I think it can ultimately be successful? No, I don't. I don't think it, because at the end of the day, if you've got someone who really believes, hey, I need to submit to Allah, and you look up, how do I do that? And it's by following these commands, and you're saying, no, don't follow those commands, you kind of lose that debate. So that's the issue. One more comment here, and then we'll check this out, because this is a good point here. Our Coyote says, if Tommy is so bad, why does the BBC have to make stuff up? You could just stick to the truth, but the BBC does not, because they know they lie about everything. And this is an important point, right? Because AP, you brought it up. The justifications that Facebook was offering. Here's why we had to ban him. He was advocating beheading Muslims and so on. Guys, don't you think that if he had done that, we'd have been hearing about it from the rooftops, right? No. Absolute nonsense. No, he didn't. Show me where he said that. Tommy called it. Hey, show me where I said that. Show me the screenshots. Obviously, I mean, he's got the media following his every move. Obviously, if he had done that, they would have the info, right? But think
it would
about
be
that.
Everywhere.
Yeah. If he's really doing something that violates the rules, same thing with Facebook. Why do you need to make stuff up? BBC, and all the other news outlets that were reporting on what happened to Tommy, if he really deserved to be locked up for reporting on that case, and he had actually broken a law, why'd you need to make things up? Why'd you need to say, no, he pleaded guilty, he admitted it, that he'd done these things wrong? Why'd you need to make those things up? Why can't you just state the facts and show that he is this horrible, awful person? Anytime you're saying, hey, here's this horrible, awful person, you have to make up a bunch of things to prove your case, should make us a bit suspicious here. All right, so looking at the comments from our friends over in Great Britain, seems that people are quite comfortable with us saying whatever we want.
Yeah. Let's bash England. About
the once great nation of Great Britain, which shall heretofore be called and known as not so Great Britain. All right, let's go ahead and check out this clip. I took about a 3-minute clip where Tommy discusses what they're doing right now. Did you want to say anything before we go to the clip?
No, just smash the like button and let's go.
Oh yeah, everyone, smash that like button. What else? What else should they do to it?
Beheaded.
Wage jihad on that like button. Terrorize the like button. All right, let's check out this clip.
Okay.
Let me read you what they're saying is my crime. I cause substantial risk that one or more of the criminal defendants, that's the Muslim rapists who rape children, would be harassed by followers of the respondent, that's me, who had seen the video. Or that the criminal defendants would reasonably apprehend that they might be on their way to court. And they might create distraction and anxiety. That's right. I face prosecution for causing anxiety to 10 Muslim men who raped children. I caused them anxiety. That is my charge. I would have seriously impeded their ability to participate properly in the trial that had finished, which, for the avoidance of doubt, required them to be able to travel to and from court without fear of molestation. They were convicted and found guilty of molestation. What are you talking about? And to be in a state of mind. The worry is about the 10 men that have been found guilty. Do you know what? The Attorney General believes it's in the public interest to try me. Do you know one of those men, when I was arrested on the Friday and put straight automatically in jail without a trial, those 10 men were sent home. One of those men absconded. One of those men has been sentenced to something like 15 years in his absence. He's still not in prison. The Attorney General should concentrate on bringing that rapist, child rapist, to prison. I'll end up being sent to prison twice for giving publicly held information. For those of you reading the charges that I breached a reporting restriction, section 4. The judge, under their own law, has no power to enforce a reporting restriction on any information that's already in the public domain. This is clear to the world. State persecution. I may face prison again. For what? For holding my iPhone and telling the public information that was already in the public domain. Ask yourself this: what has taken the Attorney General 5 months? What's taken 5 months?
Yeah, and I think the point there about the 5 months has been, I think it was obvious to everyone once Tommy got out and the facts were out that this was a ridiculous charge. It was a ridiculous sentence, that it was a massive miscarriage of justice. And that's why they didn't just immediately retry him, right? Because they're allowed to, the idea was there had been a mistake, and so they can retry him. And so the situation there is all of a sudden, right after he starts going after the BBC, exposing them, embarrassing them, humiliating them, banned by Facebook. It's all over the place. Right when he's calling out the BBC and calling out everyone else and exposing everyone, that's when they decide, hey, he has to. We have some new information for you, Tommy. We have to retry you. So, AP, what do you think of Great Britain? Now, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen, we are not Willy Wonka, so we are not going to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that the timing is very curious, as you said. This happened exactly after he released his Panorama documentary, which was very, very hard-hitting, too. All of this happened right after that. I mean, some other things happened, too, apparently. An interaction between him and a historian journalist called Mike something Berry, I don't know. A little interaction happened between Tommy Robinson and Mike, which was the two kind of doxing each other and then visiting each other at the door or something like that. I think people started talking about that. But what really happened here, what really happened at the height of everything, is that Tommy Robinson released a documentary. 5 months have passed. The people in the trial have all been convicted, and it has been concluded that they were indeed involved in a gang rape of a minor. And now we have the situation 5 months later that Tommy Robinson is to face charges again and possibly face 2 years in prison for that, which is ridiculous. I mean, when you think about it, on one side you have those 4 people who were convicted for actually being involved in a gang rape, and on the other side you have someone facing charges, possible prison, simply for speaking about them, simply for informing the public about them, not even interfering in the process at all. And the things they cite are really ridiculous. I mean, you can see it on Tommy Robinson's face, even when he says it. He might have caused anxiety to the defendants. Goodness. He might have caused anxiety to the defendants. And now we have here Tommy being totally mentally damaged after he came out of jail.
They don't have a problem with that. They don't have a problem with that one. Yeah, they don't have a problem with that, and they have a problem with him having caused anxiety. And the wording also, it's in the public's interest. It is in the public's interest to prosecute Tommy Robinson now because of this. That is really in the public's interest, to prosecute him for reporting on something, on a trial of
of rapists who were convicted. Is that really in the public interest? It is ridiculous. Now we can start talking about Great Britain, I guess, and what a country it has become.
Yeah, well, if you talk about the public interest, what's in the public interest for the people of Great Britain is to stop having leaders that suck so much, right? That would be the main thing that's in the public interest. Great Britain, you suck. I understand you have a lot of good people still there, but the fact that those people are being attacked and persecuted by a bunch of pompous, arrogant, egomaniacal, narcissistic, total bangers and mash eating jerks is just horrifying, right? I mean, this is, my goodness, I am glad that George Washington kicked the crap out of your nation a couple of centuries ago. I am glad they took your stinking, disgusting tea and dumped it into our harbor. We don't want it. We will drink coffee. We don't care about your disgusting tea. I wish you guys would show up right now with a big old boatload of tea, just so I could dump it right into a harbor. That's what I think right now. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting, right? Of all the things you could be worried about right now, right? You've got terrorists coming back from ISIS and so on. You've got because as soon as ISIS made the call for people to come join the Islamic State, a bunch of people started traveling there from your country. So there are people behind the scenes who are preparing for jihad. You know that there are guys, Muslim grooming gangs, who are going around still to this day, grooming, drugging, raping little girls. And what is your main focus? Right? What is the main focus? And I say the main focus because when I go to any one of your media outlets, what do I see? Every single day, Tommy Robinson, Tommy Robinson, Tommy Robinson. You guys focus more on Tommy Robinson than the American media focus on Donald Trump. And he's the president of the United States. Right? And you focus on this little 5'6" guy from Luton who is fed up with all the crap you're doing, and you're obsessed with him. And you'd think, okay, if the media is obsessed with him, that would be bad enough. That would be horrible, right? Especially if they're making stuff up. But it's not. It doesn't stop there. These same media, they go and get him deplatformed. We already know that Mohammed Shafiq from the BBC went and talked to Facebook right before Tommy got banned, pleading with them to get him banned. So you've got the BBC actually getting people deplatformed, and now you've got him. They're trying to send him back to jail. This is a guy who spent months in prison, had months of psychological and physical abuse heaped on him for daring to report on an Islamic grooming gang because it might have caused anxiety for some of the rapists? Are you kidding me? That's your justification? This is what amazes me, AP. Right? They'll look for these little things. How can we? Okay, we want to go after the guy, but how do we justify it? Right? How do we justify doing what we're doing? Right? And everyone's doing the exact same thing. Right? And so lots of the times it's making something up. We want to deplatform this guy. How are we going to justify it? Oh, we'll say, just to calm people down so there's not an uproar, we'll say that he was calling for Muslims to be beheaded. That's what we'll say, right? That calms a lot of people down. Oh, if he was doing that, then you know what's the problem. So there's that. But they look for ways to justify it, right? They'll look for ways to justify it. Hey, we want to throw this guy in jail so that he can't be on social media and can't be exposing us anymore for the next couple months. I know he's walking around out there with a cell phone. We don't know what he's saying, but he's out there. So let's just assume that he's saying some stuff that's really relevant to this trial and really gonna, just cause anxiety for some people, and let's lock him up. Well, eventually that, after months, that goes to a judge with some common sense, and he says, my goodness, let this man out of here. This is nonsense. And what do they do after he's gone around for a few months and he's exposing the BBC some more? They say, another judge says, oh, okay, well, we have to bring him back, get him locked up again over what? Over walking around Facebooking live with his cell phone outside the trial of a grooming gang when he could not possibly have impacted that trial. It's not possible because he was not sharing anything that was not already in the public domain. They're saying, but he could have influenced the trial. No, he couldn't have. It was impossible because he wasn't saying anything that was relevant to the trial that was not already in the public domain. And so now they're having to shift it to, now they're having to shift it to, it might have caused anxiety to some of these people. Can you imagine, right? Reporters being told, hey, this rapist who's going to his trial, you can't report on him because it might cause him some anxiety. He might be a little nervous about all your reporting on him. So you guys have to be silenced. And if you say anything about it, we're going to throw you in jail. You bunch.
The rapists might be anxious.
Yeah. Wow.
There is another thing. I just mentioned this Mike Stutchberry issue. There is this journalist historian called Mike Stutchberry, and Tommy Robinson apparently has some history with this guy. What happened is that the media is now reporting that Tommy Robinson harassed Mike Stutchberry because he went to his house, knocked on his door, asked for him to come out, and streamed it live on YouTube. And that is now being reported on the media.
Yep.
And let me see. In the House of Commons, yes, in the House of Commons, there has been a talk about because of this incident, about banning Tommy Robinson from YouTube as well, so that Tommy Robinson has no platform, no online social media platform at all left. What really happened is, if you look at the past of all of this, what really happened is that this Mike Stutchberry guy sent people to Tommy Robinson's house, filmed it all on camera. Among one of them was a person who calls himself a crackhead because he is a crackhead. He went to Tommy Robinson's house while Tommy Robinson was out of the country. So in Tommy's house there were Tommy's children and his wife. And they know that because it is public knowledge at that time that Tommy Robinson is out of the country. They go to his house, film it, dox him. They publish the address of Tommy Robinson's home. And when Tommy Robinson learns of this, he is, of course, extremely angry, comes back and goes to this guy's house instead, turns on his camera, streams it live on YouTube. But what happens is that the first incident where Tommy Robinson is doxxed finds no place on the media at all. But the second incident, when Tommy Robinson goes and doxes him instead, is suddenly all over the media and also in the British House of Commons. This is how things go. It is ridiculous. The bias in the media, the bias in politics, led by the Labour Party in the UK, which is a leftist, socialist, communist party that is so much against free speech, always makes great, always shows itself greatly in anti-Semitism. Always shows itself greatly in hosting radical Muslims and radical Islamists on their platform. Led by all of these and fueled by all of these, there is this extreme bias going on against Tommy Robinson, some guy who just reports, some guy who just talks, compared to people who actually threaten violence, compared to people who gang rape, who organize gang rapes, who cover up gang rapes, who cover up grooming gangs, who go out of the country, become terrorists and come back. Only last year we had this report that thousands of people, thousands of ex-ISIS terrorists are freely roaming through the United Kingdom, and the authorities can't do anything about it because they're not following those people properly, because the procedures are not really perfect, the procedures are not really followed. But with Tommy Robinson, they can follow the entire procedure. With Tommy Robinson, this guy opens his mouth and it is all over the media, and everyone is asking for his crucifixion. You know, this I don't know. I don't know how much can be said about this. This is what the government and the Labour Party did to the United Kingdom is ridiculous. The United Kingdom has become a joke because of this. Yeah, and it is really time that there is some change to be done.
Total joke. You guys
Absolute
deserve
joke.
to be the laughing stock of the world. And if people actually. The problem is a lot of people still don't know, right? A lot of people have been influenced by the media, and they think Tommy's a guy who goes around saying behead Muslims because that's what's reported in the news. If people actually catch on that, no, they're actually making stuff up. They've been making stuff up a very long time. They're horribly biased, right? If people catch on, Great Britain's going to be even more of a laughing stock to the entire world, and that's what they're worried about. And I think that's why they're retrying him now, because as you pointed out, and this warrior woman here posted, said all Tommy did was knock on his door, nothing more, and after that, and that was after they sent Antifa to Tommy's children's house. So so as you pointed out, and guys, you can go watch Tommy's videos. The links are down in the. I've got some links to a couple of his recent videos in the description box, but you can just go look at all of his recent videos. But as you pointed out, right, they're showing up to his house with a group of people and a crackhead, and I believe, correct me, I believe that guy was saying things like he wants to have sex with a hole in Tommy's wife's head or something. He was saying some very horrifying stuff. Don't quote me on that, guys. Go and look at. Go and look at what he actually said. So these are the people who are showing up to Tommy's house. Tommy's response is to go up to a guy, the guy who's apparently organizing it or something like that, and say, "Hey, do you think this is okay?" What does the media report? "Oh man, Tommy's coming after him. Do you see this? He's showing up at his house. It's so horrible," right? Do you have any idea, ladies and gentlemen, how horribly biased you have to be to report like that? And that's what everyone's worried about. What do you do when you find out Facebook is lying about what Tommy did? What do you find out? What do you do when you find out that he didn't actually violate any Twitter policies, but he was banned anyway? What do you do when you find out the BBC and the Guardian and the Daily Mirror, all of these groups are just flat out lying over and over and over again? What do you do? Well, you just have to try and silence anyone who's exposing you. And I don't normally believe in conspiracy theories. I don't. I can't think of a conspiracy theory that I believe, unless it was actually exposed as a legitimate conspiracy. But conspiracies usually break down. So when people say, "Oh, the moon landing, that was just a big conspiracy and a hoax and stuff like that," say, of all the people that would have had to have been involved in that hoax, that would have broken down by now, right? As a general rule. J. Warner Wallace talks about this because he was a cold case detective and stuff, and he focused on like breaking people down who were colluding about something. He pointed out that they break down really quickly, right? As soon as you separate them and it's in someone's best interest to let the cat out of the bag, people start talking when it's in their best interest. He said the only times when people actually will stick to a conspiracy and won't break, it has to be like 2 or 3 people, and they have to be like this, like brothers or something like this. That's when you can actually keep a conspiracy quiet once people start catching on to it. So the idea that you've got all these conspiracies, like 9/11's a conspiracy and stuff like this, when thousands of people would have had to have been involved and it's just still quiet, these are nonsense. So I never believe in conspiracy theories. But when I see the BBC working with Facebook and having Tommy deplatformed, and then when he's still going after the BBC, all of a sudden he's being retried on an obviously bogus charge, I start thinking, man, there are some people working together here, right? And when people are showing up to his house and in a group, and then the media just completely distorts what happens and so on, it seems like there is something going on here. I mean, guys, just imagine this kind of reporting, right? Imagine if you're reporting like this, right? Suppose I don't like AP here, right? So I show up to AP with like 5 of my friends, and we just beat him senseless, right? We're smashing his face in and stuff like this. And so we're walking away. He's all bloody on the ground. He yells, "You bunch of idiots, I hate you." And then it's all over the media. Apostate Prophet declares he hates these people. He hates this, and he looks like the bad guy there, right? He looks like the bad guy. The media says, "Oh, he says he hates people." That seems to be exactly what's going on with Tommy Robinson, right? And yeah, it's pretty horrifying.
An important thing to point out is what Tommy Robinson does, what he has been doing for years, is that he exposes people, as he calls it. He goes to people's houses or to the places people work. He goes there, he films it all on camera, he puts it directly live on YouTube, and goes there and talks to those people. He confronts them with questions and wants direct answers from people, not some nonsense that they write onto some blog or in a newspaper or on the Independent or whatever. That's the point of it. He wants to go to their door, ask them the questions directly, and see what they say in the front of everyone who's watching that. That's what he does. He doesn't go around harassing people and punching people and attacking people. That's everything he does. That's also what he wanted to do with this Mike Stuchberry, for example. He also announced that he would do that. He also said he would do that, and he didn't do anything different before. before. We have we have the government, we have the media, we have social media platforms, and everyone. It is so easy to follow everything Tommy Robinson does because he's always in the news, and you can easily see that's all he does. He just goes and films and asks questions. He did that with the Quilliam institution. He did that with reporters, with so many others. After doing this Mike Stushbury thing, he also made a tweet in which he said something like, all those journalists who harassed me and my family or something like that, expect a knock on your door. That's what he said. I don't know about the first part, but he just threatened journalists by saying, expect a knock on your door. What he means is that he will go to them and will ask them direct questions, live stream it, and have them answer those questions directly. What the media did is that this tweet was a threat to journalists.
Yeah.
It is obviously not. And everyone can see that. Everyone who is a little bit honest, everyone who can follow the news a little bit, who can follow what Tommy Robinson does a little bit, can see that is not a threat. It is just a warning. I am coming and I will directly speak to you. What is a threat about that? Why should that be a justification to ban him from YouTube, for example, as the politician demanded today? It is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Totally ridiculous. Nobody Zero says, please, Apostate Prophet and David Wood, share your disgust of the UK government. They have earned it. Well, they certainly earned it. I mean, just imagine the situation here, right?
You make me vomit.
These are the British, right? So even after the days of the British Empire, right? You had these little Germans rise up. Remember these German guys? These guys were really, really good at war. They bombed Great Britain until there was nothing left to bomb. The country was a big pile of rubble, and they kept fighting. They just kept fighting. They kept going, right? Amazing. And then afterwards, all the European countries were weakened by World War II, and then the United States became the most powerful country because we were pretty much unaffected by it, except for the soldiers who went over there. And so then you weren't as strong, and the big threat was the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union really wanted to take over. You know why Great Britain didn't end up as the smallest province in the Russian Empire? The United States was watching your back. And for what? What did you guys fight? What did you guys fight through World War II for? Why do we look to Great Britain as basically us, but on the other side of the people really think Great Britain has the same values as us right now, right? I mean, yeah. If you go back a couple of years, as a matter of fact, if you go back to before Pamela Geller and Robert Spencer got banned from the country for wanting to go to the funeral of Lee Rigby and put flowers on the pyre there. I'm assuming they would have spoken and so on too. When the country banned them for 10 years for wanting to go do that, that was the first time where I thought, wait a minute, what? I thought this is Great Britain. I thought you guys had like the same ideals and the same values as we have here, and that was nothing and compared to the direction they've been going. And now they're to the point where, they will stalk and harass and deplatform and throw people in jail and lie and make things up, false trials, false information, false tests, all this, to get to a guy who's really upset about grooming gangs. How dare he? How dare he be so upset about little girls being gang raped by these grooming gangs of devout followers of Muhammad? How dare he? We really need to spend 80% of our time going after this guy and not the jihadis who are preparing to slaughter us, right? I mean, my goodness, man, right? What was the point? What's wow.
What is extremely annoying and very confusing is that in the UK there are so many mosques and groups and organizations where we have proof, endless proof, multiple reports, hundreds of reports that they have been involved in pretty bad activities, in encouraging violence, in enabling terrorists and sending terrorists to Syria and this and that. There are so many groups that are speaking for the destruction of the UK and the US, for the destruction of the West, for establishing Sharia, for abandoning every value that Western people stand for and are proud of, for destroying free speech, and so on. And there are mosques in the middle of London where criminal organizations are repeatedly traced back to, and where you can repeatedly see criminal activity everywhere. And the government is doing nothing about these places because it could possibly be perceived as racism or hate or Islamophobia or bigotry, whatever it is. You know, they're doing nothing about this threat, about this real threat, this existential threat, but they're doing something about this little guy who is just who is using his phone and his camera to report about grooming gangs and rapists. It is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you had a debate with one of those people who is very prominent for being such a toxic Islamist in the UK, right?
Wait,
he was in prison. Anjem Choudary.
oh yeah. I debated him. He was locked up, and one other Omar Bakri, I believe he was locked up or deported or something like that. Omar Bakri, and then one more. So I've debated three British. Muslims who lived in Great Britain and who've been locked up or deported for their radical views.
Yeah. But Anjem Choudary, I mean, he's a very good example. Let's compare him to Tommy Robinson. Mm-hmm. They didn't do anything to this guy for years. He said the most horrible stuff that you can possibly imagine from a Western perspective about the West, about people, about women, about homosexuals, about everything. You know, about people of different beliefs. He said the most horrible stuff that you can imagine from a Western point of view. But nothing happened to him. He made so many disgusting comments. In the end, they only started prosecuting him because they somehow found some links between him and the hiring of terrorists to Syria, to ISIS. Nothing happened to this guy for all the horrible stuff that he said and did, for all the organizing that he made. He organized big rallies through London in which they asked explicitly for the destruction of the UK and the US. You can still see that. There is still footage of that on YouTube. They asked for installing Sharia, for installing Islamic law, for executing the apostates and gays, and turning women into second-class citizens again, turning non-Muslims into second-class citizens again, punishing critics, and so on. Nothing happened. Nothing happened until some actual crime was found. But Tommy Robinson is being harassed and persecuted by the entire establishment, by the media, by the social media, by the government, in a collusion for just reporting on such people. This is, I don't know how much we can keep talking about these things, but it has just become extremely ridiculous, and people are starting to react to this. People are starting to do something about this. And when very, very right-winged, far-right politics are starting to emerge now, and extreme reactions are starting to emerge now, this is because of the ridiculousness of this situation. Nothing else.
Proactive Active here says, we do have the same values. Our government, establishment, and media don't. Yeah, well, it's clear that your government and the establishment and the media don't share the same values that we would share here in the U.S. But I have to object. If you're saying that the population as a whole shares those values, there are basically two possibilities here, right? There are basically two possibilities because guess what? If the population as a whole shared those values, then you should be electing people who also share those values, right? If all of your media organizations are going out and reporting total nonsense, and you share the same values that we share, people should be calling them out. These guys should be going out of business for flat out lying over and over and over again. I don't see that happening. So there are two possibilities here. Either most of the population doesn't share the values. Yes, there are obviously tons of people in the UK who share the same values: free speech, freedom of the press, things like that. So there are obviously tons of people like that, but on the one hand, either there has to be enough people who don't support those values that they keep your government and your media in power, or people in general in the UK do support the values, but they're so deceived. They're so deceived by their government, by the establishment, by the media, that they don't realize that the government and the establishment and the media don't share those values. So those are the two possibilities that I see. But notice, if assuming it's the latter, the best case scenario is that it's the latter, that the British population as a whole, most of the British population shares the same values that we have here in the U.S. On these important issues like freedom of speech and freedom of religion and freedom of the press. But if that's the case, then you can see why the government and the establishment and the media would be so absolutely desperate to shut down someone like Tommy Robinson, right? Because he's a threat to all of that. He's someone who can bring it down. And again, think of who this guy is, right? I mean, if you saw Tommy Robinson walking down the street and you didn't know who he is, you would not think that this guy is a threat to anyone on the planet at all in any way. But you look at the British media, British politicians. This guy is the. I mean, there's Hitler and then there's this guy. That's it. That's the ranking system for the past century. It's Hitler, then it's this guy. He's number 2 on the most horrible people system. But AP, you brought up the situation of Anjem Choudary, right?
Yeah.
Now that's a guy who was in the media. But notice, when the media would draw some attention to Anjem Choudary, they would actually be accurate in their criticisms, right? They would say, here's what he said, and here's evidence that he said it. And so here's why we're reporting on what he said. They would be truthful with someone like that. When they're reporting on different people, Omar Bakri or whoever, they're actually very careful to get things right. As soon as they talk about Tommy Robinson, it's like all journalistic integrity, any sense of journalistic ethics, it all goes out the window. Who cares? Our main goal is to bring this guy down. The ends justify the means. So if we have to lie, deceive, violate his rights, violate his human rights, violate his legal rights as a citizen here, whatever we have to do, we have to get this guy, and we don't care what we have to do as long as we get him. How can you hate someone that much? I mean, when I sit here and think, right, there are a bunch of politicians and media personalities and people here in the U.S., right? Like you have like these nutty new politicians who are advocating socialism and things like that. It's so silly and ridiculous, but it never enters my mind for even 1 second. It never crosses my mind. These people have to be silenced. These people have to deplatformed. We have to go out and lie about these people and say they've done all these horrible things. We have to say that they're advocating beheading and murdering people. We have to go out and do it. It never crosses my mind that we have to do that. So that's like anyone I can think of, any person with any just silly, ridiculous position. It never enters my mind that you have to silence them, lock them up, throw away the key over their views. If you don't like what someone says, you refute what that person says. But with Tommy, it's, hey, this guy's out here complaining about these grooming gangs and pointing out all these passages in the Quran and the Hadith that justify terrorism and things like that. My good, if there's anyone in the world we have to go after, it's this guy. And we have to lock him up. We have to silence him. We have to deplatform him. We have to show up at his house. We have to threaten his wife and children. We have to do all of this stuff just to get at this guy. And I think they're making a huge mistake here, right? Because they could lock up Tommy Robinson right now for the rest of his life, right? That doesn't stop anything, right? There are people who are going to be so upset and outraged that you're going to end up with a lot of Tommy Robinsons after that sort of thing. So I think they're making a huge blunder if they think they're going to, hey, we silence this guy and everything else will be fine. No, if you silence that guy, you're going to end up with a lot more who are going to be a lot more right up in the BBC's face, way more than Tommy is. All right, want to take some questions?
There is this thing called the Streisand effect, which is when you try to cover up things that happen because you deem them inappropriate in a way, you try to cover them up, and by covering them up, by censoring that, by trying to shut it down, you just give more and more attention to that, and that has basically happened with Tommy Robinson. So I don't know what they are thinking when they are trying to silence this guy, when they're trying to go after him and slander him and put him in jail and so on. I really don't know what they are thinking, but it's definitely, in the long run, it's definitely not in the favor of the current UK government and their mentality. Neither in favor of social media and the establishment media as it is right now.
Here's a comment from Pete Hill. He says, the government official who has called for Tommy's YouTube banning is Tom Watson, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, Britain's Socialist Party. Think the Democrats, but worse. Well, if that's correct, if Tom Watson is the person who's calling for Tommy to be banned from YouTube, then I say, Tom Watson, you suck. Your party sucks.
Yes.
It's like, I mean, look at what's happened over the last 10 years. It's like, I mean, you know, Great Britain and France had all of these wars in the past. It's like now they're having a battle to see who sucks most. And they're both winning, but they're trying really hard to show the world who sucks most. And, you know, boy, they're really, really doing a bang-up job of showing everyone how much they absolutely, totally, completely suck. Horrible, horrible governments, horrible media. I mean, gosh, what's the last good thing to come out of Great Britain? Monty Python, right? And guess what? Even Monty Python's leaving, right? John Cleese said he's leaving the UK. You know what he said? He says because he can't trust the media. You're losing Monty Python. It's like the only... Okay, maybe Harry Potter or something like that, but come on. You're losing Monty Python. They say we can't live here anymore. It's so horrible. It's gotten to where we can't open a paper without throwing up. Wow.
Seriously, we bashed the UK a lot. I mean, it has a great culture, a great, it's something to be proud of. Great people, a huge history, a great history. But at this point, with this government, with all that is going on right now, it is just, I really don't know how to express that. It's laughing stock.
Wow. Mark 5150 says,
it's a shame.
David, have you heard about the Aiden James story? He went to Syria to fight against ISIS, but is now locked up in a UK prison with ISIS terrorists. Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds horrible. That sounds unimaginably bad if that is correct. But given what we've seen, should we be surprised?
What is the name?
Aiden James. You want to look that up real quick and see what the situation is? Aiden James, Aidan James. This is a good question here. Lakshmi says, is Tommy the only person against grooming gangs? What about people like Jay Smith? How did Tommy get this sort of unique media attention? Well, Tommy is out, doing things like leading rallies and protests. So he's... I think the real reason people focus so much on Tommy, that the media and politicians and so on are focusing so much on Tommy, is that he's massively popular. And he's massively popular because there are a lot of people who are agreeing with him. And again, if your media organizations and your government officials are lying to people, making things up, distorting everything in order to keep themselves in power, someone like that is a huge threat. Keep in mind, I mean, think about this, right? If you're if you're the BBC or the Guardian or the Daily Mirror, or any of these organizations, you're a politician, and you are doing your job and doing it well. Do you have anything to fear from a guy like Tommy going around holding rallies and so on, or reporting? What do you have to worry about? What could you possibly have to fear from this man, right? Let him talk.
Absolutely.
Let him talk himself to death. If you're not doing anything wrong and you're doing your job well, what can he possibly say? The only way to discredit you would be to lie about you, and then you expose him as the liar, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're not doing that, right? He's out reporting on them, exposing them, and they're exposed as liars, and that makes him a threat. And notice, I mean, this is just amazing because if British media, British journalists, and politicians and so on. Guys, if you don't want to be known as a bunch of lying total scumbags, stop being lying scumbags, right? That's what you do. You don't say, oh, this guy's exposing us for being lying scumbags. We don't want people to know that we're lying scumbags. We are, but we don't want people to know it. So let's destroy this man and his family. Wild, wild stuff.
So what I'm seeing here about Aiden James is that he went to Syria to fight for the YPG, for the WPJ, which is a Kurdish group that fights against ISIS, you know. Mm-hmm. And upon his return, he was captured and charged for fighting in a foreign conflict, because that is apparently what's forbidden, and faced a sentence. But apparently later on the charges were dropped. I don't know what the current state is. There's really not very much to read about it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Maybe there's some recent news there. Let's check out some more comments here. Wow, people calling for civil war here. You guys are hardcore, aren't you?
No,
guys, keep in mind. I don't think, just to be clear, I don't think you need a civil war. I don't think you need a civil war, right? You just need a lot more people willing to speak out and willing to call out the British media and so on, willing to put your jobs online. Because the situation right now is every person who steps forward ends up, groups like Hope Not Hate and so on, go after them at their jobs, get them fired, ruins your life and so on, and, embarrasses you and things like that. So there's a massive incentive not to speak out. And so people use power over you like that. But the idea is if you have enough people to step forward all at the same time, then I don't think you need a civil war, right? Guess what? Most media organizations, most media companies, they're businesses. They're in the media to make money. If enough people catch on to what they're doing, they either have to start telling the truth or they go out of business, right? So if enough people catch on and learn the truth, the media has to adapt. Educators, if enough people catch on, the education system has to adapt, right? Or you just pull your kids out of that school and put them somewhere else, right? Elected officials, they have to ultimately do what the people want, at least to some extent, or you vote in new people. So all you really need to turn this around is an informed population of free people. I've been saying that for years. You want to turn things around, you need an informed population of free people. If you get that, guess what? You've just fixed. That will solve the media problem. That will solve the establishment problem. That will solve the political problem. That will solve all your problems, right? And that's why someone like Tommy is so dangerous, because he's working on informing the population and encouraging them to respect the freedom that they have. And so that's why he's a threat. And so if you get enough people stepping forward, because guess what, right? I don't want a bloodbath. I don't want a civil war. I don't want to see the UK. I don't want to see hundreds of thousands of people killed and slaughtered over this. And so you don't have to. If there's a peaceful way, then I would advocate the peaceful way. All right, AP,
absolutely. We're not here to incite a civil war or a bloodbath or anything. It's not fun.
Yeah, someone a few minutes ago posted that there are lots of Tommy Robinsons already, and then Dan L responded, there are lots of armchair Tommy Robinsons maybe, but Tommy is the real deal. And so yeah, there are a lot of Tommy Robinsons in the sense of a lot of people who agree with Tommy Robinson. But if you look at Tommy Robinson and the attention that he gathers, not just from the people who follow him, but from the media and politicians and so on, to the extent that they would absolutely lose their minds and not care at all about lying, anything. They just don't care. That's someone special there. With that said, you could have other Tommy Robinsons that just haven't, that just aren't out there yet. So my point was, there are lots of people who are still, they're still concerned about their jobs. That's entirely reasonable, right? It's really rough to expose. I'm talking. The Apostate Prophet and I are speaking from experience here, right? it's kind of difficult to say, hey, I'm going to go do this thing and I'm going to go expose this ideology, which is going to get people saying on a regular basis that they're going to come and murder my wife and kids and rape my wife and murder my mother, burn my mother alive on top of me while I watch, and then they kill me and so on. That you get these kind of threats on a constant basis. It's pretty rough to say, hey, this doesn't just affect me. This affects my family. This affects my friends. But I'm going to go and do it anyway. That's a tough decision. And some people I say, don't do it, right? Look, dude, you have a good job. Keep your good job. Support people who are out there doing these things. But as for right now, trust me, you don't want to. You don't want to be on the front lines of this battle because it sucks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there comes a time. There comes a time when, if you take someone like Tommy and throw him in jail again, then some of those people who have the ability, who have the potential to be the next Tommy Robinson, some people there are going to say, you know what? I've been laying kind of low because I'm trying to finish my PhD and I've got all these different things to do. You know what? Screw all that. I can't sit by and watch you guys do this to people. So I am going to step forward, and you're going to end up with some new leaders.
Absolutely. Well, things need to be changed. It needs to be changed. It shouldn't be changed in a violent way. Things need to be changed the way we change things here in the West, which is through politics, through voicing opinions and pressing for a solution, which is disobedience and demanding that the right thing is to be done, that people get their rights. We don't want anger and violence and blood and anything at all, but the way the establishment media is going right now, and social media is going together with them, and the government is helping them as well, they won't bring us the right results, to say the least. People are getting more and more outraged about this, and it's showing itself in elections, in politics, in votes, more and more. And we need to change something before it really gets out of hand. Mm-hmm. Because the Tommy Robinson thing is important. I'm not fully in agreement with everything Tommy Robinson does. I would personally not go out and say half the things Tommy Robinson said. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go out and support all his words on a rally and totally agree with him and share his stuff on my platform as well. I wouldn't do that. I agree to extent with him in things he does. In some concerns, I disagree heavily with him. But that is not the point. The point is that one person is being silenced for things that he hasn't done. One person is being silenced for simply sharing information, for objecting to things, for objecting to horrible things, for objecting to rape and child rape and the invasion of West and the hostility against Western culture, and he opposes the fact that such organizations speak or demand the end of our freedoms, the end of freedom of speech, for example. He opposes that. And we need to support him in this, not because we agree with everything he says, but we need to support him in this because if you don't support him now, or if you stay silent now, or if you justify him being silenced, then tomorrow they will come for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and guys, if Tommy gets banned from YouTube, we're next, right? I mean, we're already being deplatformed in various ways, right? You've already been kicked off Twitter just for stating facts about Muhammad. I recently had a video taken down as hate speech because I criticized Muhammad for saying that a black man is going to come and destroy the Kaaba and the impact this has on the Islamic view of black people. I criticized him for saying something negative about black people, and I got banned as hate speech. So, guys, keep in mind, right? Now, I don't know why people aren't more worried about this, right? If Facebook can just kick you off at any moment and say, this person advocated beheading all Muslims or beheading Muslims in general or going out and slaughtering Muslims, and they could just make that up, and it stands and it gets reported in the media. I mean, my goodness, if they want to ban the Apostate Prophet tomorrow, they can just say, all right, we're banning the Apostate Prophet. He advocated molesting all children. Can you believe he advocated molesting all children? What a horrible person. Everyone would be, oh my goodness, we can't believe that he advocated that. It's so horrible. And they're just making it up, right? This is some messed up stuff, right? This is like horrifying stuff. People can just make things up. And they're making them up so fast. It's not like you could just go out and sue everybody, right? If one person were doing it, you could say, hey, you need to fix that. I'm going to call. When everyone's doing it, it's coming at you from every side. It's too much to deal with. That's some scary stuff.
When they come with censorship more and more and more, we need to fight back. We need to speak against it. People need to express their dissatisfaction with that. Because if it doesn't happen, if they censor someone and no one speaks against it, then they will push further and further and further. Mm-hmm. And we can't allow them to do that. Yep. We will be next. You will be next.
Oh yeah, we are totally next, right? In other words, if the British politicians and journalists who are trying to get Tommy kicked off YouTube, because guess what? They really want him kicked off YouTube, right? He posted his documentary. A lot of people have been talking about the documentary. I watched the entire documentary. I don't watch a lot of hour-long plus content on YouTube. I prefer shorter material. I watched that. That was very, very interesting, seeing how the BBC works. Hey, we'll give you piles of money and buckets of alcohol, get you drunk to get information that we want out of you in order to attack this person that we're going after. Tommy got all of that on tape, right? He got all of that on hidden camera, exposing how the BBC works. It's absolutely disgusting. I would be horrified if CNN or Fox or any American journalists were doing this. But that's how. I mean, that's your bread and butter. That's your bread and butter in the UK. That's the BBC, and that's how they attack people. That's how they target people. That's absolutely horrifying. But I encourage everyone to watch that documentary. It's called Panodrama, because the program where they were coming after Tommy was going to be Panorama, so he called it Panodrama. But go to Tommy Robinson's channel and be sure to check out that. I have a comment here from a Muslim. He says, So the Don says, as a Muslim living in the UK, what do you expect me to do for you to stop bashing us, lol? All right. Well, to be clear, I bash your prophet. It's your prophet that I'm bashing, right? You rarely hear me say, what do you hear me say in general about Muslims? I'll talk about specific Muslims, right? Like grooming gangs and things like that, or jihadis or so on. But I don't generalize Muslims. I almost always qualify things I say by, hey, there are tons of peaceful Muslims and things like that. So I bash your prophet. And if you don't want me to bash your prophet, you could, build a time machine, go back in time, tell him not to have sex with a 9-year-old girl, tell him not to marry the wife of his own adopted son, tell him not to order his followers not to have more than 4 wives and then go out and have 9 or 11 himself, violating his own commands. Tell him not to own and sell black African slaves, or to tell his followers that Satan looks like a black man. Tell him not to call Ethiopians raisin heads. You could tell him all kinds of things, and that would help. If you hadn't done any of those things, I wouldn't nearly have as large a problem with him. And especially tell him not to order his followers to violently subjugate the entire world. Tell him that. Tell him not to do that, and then we're going to be in a completely different world. With that said, I understand you can't build a time machine and can't go back and change your prophet. But as far as what you can do now, right? Stop raising up jihadis in your communities. I understand you're not doing it. But you don't do nearly enough to combat the jihadis rising up in your communities, the grooming gangs that are coming out of your communities. It just seems that Muslims in general, even Muslims who aren't part of the grooming gangs, Muslims who aren't radicalized, you always seem to be more concerned about silencing critics of Islam than about doing anything about the horrible problems that are coming out of your community, right? So I understand I got into Islam because my best friend was a Muslim. I knew his Muslim family. I knew his Muslim friends. I knew his Muslim cousins. I know there are tons of really cool Muslims out there. But I also know that I can't see what you're doing. I can't see what you're doing to stop all of the horrifying things, right? I mean, guess what? When a caliph rises up in the Middle East and says, "All right, guys, I'm the new caliph. It's time," and people start pouring out of France and Great Britain and Russia and the United States, and they're all going over there, men, women, teenage girls, to join this movement. It is clear something was going on in the Muslim community way before that happened, right? It was way before that happened, and your community didn't do nearly enough to stop that. So if you're not doing something about it, who's going to do something about it? That would be us, right? That would be me. That would be the Apostate Prophet. You're not going to do it, then we will do it. Guess what? If you become the solution to the problem, if you go out and start dealing with the grooming gangs, if you start calling them out, exposing them, shaming them so that they stop doing it, if you do that, if you somehow convince people not to wage jihad, if you do that, guess what? You're not going to hear anything from me. I'm not going to care. I got other things I'd rather do. I got other things I'd rather be spending my time on. So I'm doing stuff because you're not doing it. And the things that you are leaving undone affects me and affects my children, affects my family, right? Affects my church. It affects these things, right? So you are basically doing nothing except whining about me. Meanwhile, people in your community are being radicalized to come and kill people like me and to kill people like the Apostate Prophet. So do we get to speak out in our own defense? Do we get to say anything about the ideology that calls for our violent death? The Apostate Prophet is under a death sentence, multiple death sentences from your prophet, right? Because he ordered his followers to kill critics. He ordered his followers to kill apostates. So he is under multiple death sentences. Does he get to speak out in criticism? Does he get to say, no, Muslims, don't do that? Because as soon as he does, you start complaining about him and not about the prophet who orders him to be killed. All right. What do you think about that, AP?
What was the question?
It's on
what
the
do I need
screen.
to do?
It says, as a Muslim living in the UK, what do you expect me to do for you to stop bashing us, right? He wants us, you and me, to stop bashing. He says us like we're just bashing Muslims in general. Me, I go after his prophet and his revelations and his teachings and so on. But how would you respond to that?
My answer is very short. If you want me to stop bashing your religion, then believe in a different religion.
Yeah.
Very clear.
That's a good response. That was much quicker. That was much quicker than mine. Someone said
I thought a bit about it.
Someone said my sound is too loud. It doesn't look like it's too loud. Guys, is my sound too loud? Or is that just a troll? Or was I just yelling at the time? I could have just been yelling at the time. All right. It's 9:21. We should probably be wrapped up in the next 9 minutes or so. So if you see any other comments you want to respond to here, go ahead and you can jump in and respond. I'm going to scroll through the last remaining
comments. Oh, I was busy with my mug.
Yeah. Let's draw attention to your mug real quick. Go and show everyone real quick again.
Here's the mug. Oh wait, it's blurred. Here.
Stay away from
Stay
Islam.
away from Islam. Yeah.
And how can people get that very mug for themselves?
You can go on merch.apostateprophet.com and you can get it from there immediately. You can also go on my YouTube channel and it's always in the description.
All right. So, everyone said my sound is perfect. That's what I thought. All right. So, troll. All right. Matter of fact, people are saying troll. That's cool. You had Robert Spencer for a live show. Why not Tommy Robinson? Yeah, I'm assuming that some of you, I don't know how to contact Tommy Robinson because he's been deplatformed so many times and I can't contact him on YouTube.
He's hard to reach too.
Yeah. And the email address, I looked, the email address that is on YouTube is, I think goes to his website, which has been removed, right? So, looks like it's tricky to contact him. So, any of you who know how to get in contact with Tom, I understand. By the way, I understand he's busy and he's got a lot to do. So if he's already got a bunch of stuff lined up, he doesn't need to worry about me. I'm happy to just we can talk about it. I can talk about this with my friends, talk about the situation. But if Tommy wants to come on, I'd be happy to have him. And if I had Tommy on, I would just like him to clarify a bunch of issues. What is your position on this? What is your position on that? So he can state exactly what his position is on a variety of issues, so that when someone says otherwise, we can call them out. All right.
All right.
Oh, and by the way, for everyone who's watching, there's a link to the Apostate Prophet's channel. There's a link to the Apostate Prophet's channel in the description box. So you're about at 100,000, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm 99,100 or so right now.
99,100. So everyone be sure to go over there and subscribe. The Apostate Prophet is going to give a free mug to his 100,000th subscriber.
Oh,
I just made that up. I think there's a way to know who your 100,000th subscriber is if you
is
go.
there?
I think because I've seen other people's videos where they say hey, I gave this special gift to my 500,000th subscriber or my 100,000th subscriber or something like that. So I guess in the I don't know. Maybe they're just guessing at it. I don't.
If there is such a way, then if I found out who my 100,000th subscriber is, I'll definitely send a mug and also a shirt to that person.
Someone's requesting Apostate Prophet air fresheners. Can you get those on merch? Air fresheners? That would be cool.
I could actually, yeah. I could arrange that. That's interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to. I've been thinking about having some T-shirts made with good quotations and simple arguments on them, because it's great. Because not a lot of people. They can be conversation starters, right? Like if you just, I don't know, as an example, you put verses of the Quran that affirm the inspiration and authority of, the Torah and the Gospel or something like that. Then you don't have to be the one who starts a conversation. You're standing in line at the bank, and people are standing behind you reading that stuff. So I don't know if you'd get away with making shirts that have quotations about Muhammad saying it's okay to rape your female captives and stuff like that. You might get in trouble over that, or have sex with a 9-year-old girl. I don't know if you could get away with merch like that. I don't know how strict they are. You have any idea how strict they are?
I don't really know. I don't know. I only received some feedback from some people who had my shirt with the Apostate Prophet face on, and they received some comments from people occasionally outside.
Oh yeah, so that worked out, huh?
Yeah. I think you can pretty much do anything if you have. I run my merch stuff through Shopify. I wasn't really interested in the merch stuff in the beginning, but I see how people asked for it, so I thought, let's just do it. Why not? Mm-hmm. But if you have Shopify and you use these integrated things where you can print on demand stuff, then I don't know. I'm printing stuff like "Stay Away from Islam" and no one cares. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I'm surprised no one has complained and had pressured them into doing something. All right, here's actually this is a good question. Candy Hopkins says, "What do you think about letting ISIS brides back in?" So we've got this situation. Sympathy. We've got this situation in both the UK and Great Britain and other countries as well. But there's sort of a lot of publicity around ISIS brides returning. So what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I heard you say no sympathy, but go ahead and
I think we talked about that before. I would say, I don't know. It's still a bit complicated because they did it at an early age. Everyone makes mistakes at this and that. But the thing is, we're not talking about stealing candies or anything. We're talking about joining ISIS in Syria, which is really messed up. I made huge mistakes when I was a younger person. You made huge mistakes. Everyone makes huge mistakes. Many people made horrible mistakes when they were younger. But we're talking about joining a terrorist organization and advocating the killing of people, contributing directly to the mass killing of people based on their choices, thoughts, beliefs, and so on. So I don't know. I really have no sympathy there. If a person goes to Syria and fights for ISIS, or goes to bed with ISIS people and then comes back and thinks because ISIS failed, they want to come back and they can come back and be accepted again, I'm sorry, they should be kept out. I have no sympathy for them at all. Mm-hmm. They can go wherever they want to go. If they have no place to go and ask for help and are completely desperate, I personally don't care. Mm-hmm. They can sleep outside in some dirty country they find somewhere. I don't know.
Now here's what's interesting, AP.
Yeah.
I'm a clinically diagnosed psychopath.
Yeah.
And you're more hardcore than I am.
I have that.
It is part of my diagnosis that I lack sympathy and empathy, right? People can be, dismembered in front of me. I don't feel anything about it, right? I can sit there and say, okay, this is wrong, and here are the reasons it's wrong, but it doesn't make me feel bad. It doesn't hurt my feelings. And you're more hardcore than I am, right? Because I'm like, I think about the stuff I did when I was 15 years old, 16 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old. Pretty horrifying stuff. And yeah, so I have mixed feelings about specifically more so the ISIS brides who were like teenagers when they ran out, because I understand 15-year-old girls and 15-year-old boys can do really, really stupid things. So if it's a 28-year-old, a 30-year-old, or something like that, yeah, you are fully responsible for the things you've done. If you were 15, I think you're in that transitional period in life where you might be looking for adventure, and you're finally willing to go out and fight for what you believe in, and what you go out and fight for turns out to be a bunch of nonsense and so on. I'd be, if it were me and I were making the call, I would say bring someone like that back. Again, totally different for a 28 or a 30-year-old or something like that. With that said, if you look at the situation with Shamima Begum in the UK, she doesn't seem to have a problem with anything that she did. Right? Oh, yeah. I mean, the journalist who was interviewing her had to really struggle to get her to say anything critical about anything that had been done. And even in that situation, it was just, yeah, I'm sad for the innocent people who got killed at the what's that singer's name? Ariana Grande. Yeah. The innocent people who died in the Ariana Grande concert. And then she immediately justified it by, but that's what, it's the same thing that you guys do when you blow up people and kids get killed and so on. So it doesn't, she's 19 years old now, and so she's had years to recognize that anything is wrong, and she apparently doesn't see much wrong. It seems more like, hey, we lost, so I want to come home because there's nothing for me here. But other than that, I would have liked to just, continue in the caliphate. So there's that situation. But even there, there's a girl who left when she was 15 and made a really, really stupid choice, but then she's surrounded by ISIS nonstop. So it's not surprising that she would still be thinking in those terms. So I'm in the situation where if it were up to me, I would bring her back, but I'm not going to be too brokenhearted if they don't bring her back, because I don't have those kinds of feelings.
Try them for treason. Bring them back. Try them for treason.
And by the way, that's what you do. Now, there is a problem with that, and sometimes they're bringing these people back from ISIS, and they don't know what they did, right? They don't have a lot of information on what they did, right? All they know is that they went and joined ISIS, which is a crime, but you don't know if this guy killed 50 people while he was there, right? You don't know the situation. Now, and that's the other thing with someone like the girl. You have a pretty good idea. What was she doing? She's a bride, right? She's staying at home cooking the guy's food when he comes home. That's horrifying enough, but she's not going around murdering people and things like that. She's supporting the people who are, and that's a crime. But I would bring her back, charge her, things like that.
But there are some aspects. I mean, there is this issue that this woman is a woman from your country. Your country is at war with this self-proclaimed state, with this organization. This woman leaves your country and willingly goes over to that side, which also happens to be brutally killing everything that comes in its way. Mm-hmm. So this person switches sides, pledges allegiance to the enemy, to a very brutal enemy, and then when the enemy is losing, this person wants to come back again and come home again and wants forgiveness.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There's so much involved in that. There's treason. There is the horrible things they get involved with once they become part of that. There is so much. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, even there, with something like treason, normally if someone commits treason, you try them for treason, right? You bring them back and try them for treason. So in other words, if you have like if someone for the United States goes over and decides to fight for the Russia in a big war or something like that, and we catch him outside of that place, he's going to be brought back, and he's going to stand trial. He's going to be he's going to be tried for the crimes that he's committed. What it seems like, I don't know exactly the legal justification for the United States denying people's return, but it seems like there's a kind of loophole in the British legal system where if someone is eligible for citizenship in another country. Because the British rules, you're not allowed to leave someone stateless, right? You're not allowed to leave someone to where they have no country. If they're a citizen of your country, you can't just abandon them and leave them in Antarctica or something like that. So there's a technicality that since she is the daughter of Bangladeshis, even though she was born and raised in the UK, she's technically eligible for citizenship in Bangladesh, even though Bangladesh, she's never even been here. And so the British government is saying, well, since she is technically eligible, even though she's never going to go there, then that meets the requirements for us revoking someone's citizenship. So, but basically what we can agree on is this is one huge mess. And this is one of the reasons I don't like Islam, is it creates these huge messes, right? It makes these things. It puts everyone in these horrible situations where it doesn't matter what you do, it's messed up, right? If you bring back jihadis who've been fighting for ISIS, that sucks. It sucks that you either have to release them at some point or that you have to, put them in jail and take care of them for the rest of their lives or something like that. That's horrible. That's a bad state of affairs. If you have to abandon a teenage girl and her newborn son, that's bad too. And Islam just keeps putting people in these situations where there's no obviously right choice. So yeah,
absolutely. I said also last time there was this one case of a woman who went to be an ISIS bride, and ran away from them after that, denounced them very clearly and heavily, denounced all the ideology, the entire ideology, became an ex-Muslim, and started to speak against them and work against them. In such a case, I can understand. Even then, I would kind of approach the situation with a little bit of hesitation. But in such a situation, I can understand, because this person obviously regrets ever becoming part of that and wants to now work against them. That's a different case. But if you go there to join them and then you come back totally unchanged, and we just want to be accepted back through the door, I really don't care.
Yep. Here's a quick question. Warrior Woman asks, Apostate Prophet and Dave, what platform alternative will you both use once these leftist platforms go under? So if you've already been kicked off Twitter once, you already had another account on there which you haven't been kicked off of, but you've been doing the same thing on your other account. But so once you're kicked off there, and if British politicians and journalists get their way and YouTube starts kicking people off, what are you going to do as your backup plan?
I really don't know. I mean, as for Twitter or Facebook, for example, I don't really see a very big alternative. There is this platform called Gab, which is trying to kind of establish a social media which actually respects freedom of speech. But I don't know. I've created an account there. You can follow me there, by the way, if anyone is on Gab. It seems a little bit weird, a little bit toxic in some ways. And I don't know. Yep. I would think of that as an alternative. Other than that, there is not really very much I think of as an alternative, as a plan.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the alternatives to really Twitter. I don't care. I've tried repeatedly to get banned from Twitter when someone else is getting banned, right? When someone else gets banned, like when the Apostate Prophet got banned and when Tommy got banned, I will start repeating exactly what they said in order to get banned.
Oh, you went hardcore.
Yeah, yeah. I can, I will keep, and I'll include Jack and Twitter support in there as I'm saying the exact same things that they got banned, and they just don't ban me. So. But anyway, that's how much I care about Twitter. I don't care about Twitter. I don't care about Facebook. The one I really care about is YouTube, just because I've got so much content on there. That's where most of my subscribers are and so on. So if YouTube goes, that's gonna be sad. And I don't really see a good alternative to YouTube. I have a Minds account. So Minds.com, that's an alternative, and I have a BitChute account. There, by the way, there are all kinds of alternatives to alternatives to YouTube. None of them are very good. None of them have nearly the traffic that you get from YouTube. So there's Daily Motion and all these different platforms. I made accounts on Minds and BitChute specifically because they have a stated commitment to free speech, right? So if you're not advocating killing someone on their site or something like that, generally they're not going to block you for it. So that's why I went to those alternatives, because if it gets bad enough to where YouTube is blocking people for criticizing Muhammad or something like that, which they've already started doing in my case, then you just got to go to one of those alternatives. So not too crazy about them because they mainly don't have the volume that YouTube gets. But you don't know if YouTube does start banning people and people start going to alternatives, then these other alternatives might start blowing up. With that said, you don't know exactly which one's going to blow up, right? So people might all flock to one. So I don't know which one that will be, or if it will be any of these or some new one. So I'm going to try and have my toes in the pool of a couple of these other platforms. That way, if things get bad, then jump on one of these others.
I'm hopeful and faithful a little bit about YouTube. I don't know. It seems like YouTube has been much better than all the other platforms in terms of free speech and all. They're not very bad. I mean, I've seen so much horrible stuff on YouTube that you can't see anywhere else on all these other platforms. They allow some pretty nasty stuff on here too, and don't immediately go toward censoring everything. So, I think YouTube is currently still okay. I hope it stays that way.
I really hope it stays that way. I hope they don't ban Tommy. I hope they don't ban us. I hope they. Yeah. I would like all of these platforms to adopt something similar to something like the United States, Bill of Rights, right?
Would be amazing.
Something like the First Amendment. I would make it to where you can say basically whatever you want if you're not committing a crime, and I would make it extremely easy to block people. So that if someone is being a jerk and someone is trolling and stuff like that, you as an individual just block that person. Just as, you could close your front door in someone's face. That's not interfering with their freedom of speech. You're allowed to close your door in someone's face, and they don't have any right to come in there and talk to you if you don't want to be talked to.
That's how it should be. That's how it should be.
And then if someone's being a total annoying jerk, then who cares? Someone said, can someone explain what David meant about the black person just then? I assume you meant when I was talking about the video that I got banned for, that I got a hate speech strike for on YouTube. But Muhammad told his followers that this was a prophecy, that he could see it. He saw it in a vision. But a black man from Ethiopia was going to come and destroy the Kaaba. So the Kaaba is that cubical shrine, looks like a big Borg cube in Mecca that Muslims bow down and pray to. It has that big pagan stone, the black stone, in the corner of it. So Muhammad said that a black man's going to come and destroy that. And so I simply pointed out in the video, if that were the only thing, then I wouldn't have brought it up. But when it's a long history of Muhammad saying, again, that Satan looks like a black man, that if you have a dream about a black woman, it's because a plague or some disease is coming or something like that. And then who's going to destroy the Kaaba? A black man. He's saying all of these things. He calls Ethiopians raisin heads and so on. I made lots of videos about these kinds of issues, mainly because so many Muslims in the West so many Muslims in America tell African Americans, hey, if you really want to stick it to whitey, join Islam, the religion of true racial equality and so on. And so if that's the case, at least be honest about some of these things we find in there. But what you find is that Muslims in the West don't know anything about what their sources actually say on these issues. So I pointed out. So hope that helps.
That answered my question.
That was your question?
Yeah.
Kat Mickle says, David, do you want to have Tommy and Anne-Marie on a live feed? Sure, I'd love to have Tommy and Anne-Marie on a live feed.
Let's do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely love to. And someone actually posted an email, which I thought was from a site that had been taken down, but maybe is maybe Tommy can still get emails from the site, even though I thought the site was taken down. I could be wrong about that. So yeah, I'll send an email. Again, I know if he has court coming up and stuff like that, probably going to be very, very busy. But if Tommy wants to tell the people on this side of the pond what's going on, be happy to have a chat with him, let him set the record straight.
Shane Fowley said, "Why did AP get banned by Instagram? For no reason."
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
I don't even care anymore. It's Instagram. It's like, I don't know.
Instagram sucks. Not as much as Great Britain. Not as much as Great Britain, or British journalists, or British politicians, but it still sucks. It really sucks. Man, what a bunch of lame platforms, man.
Can I respond to the super chat?
You can respond to anything you want.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, David.
Anything for you.
Apostate Prophet, have you tried reaching out to Christ with all of your heart? Yes, I have.
You didn't try hard enough. It's not rocket science.
Do you want to make a promise for 1 million subscribers?
Huh?
Do you want me to make a promise for
1 million subscribers? You become a Christian?
Yeah, I'll get baptized if I have 1 million subscribers.
That'd be awesome. Ooh, do I get to baptize you?
Yes.
Awesome.
By the way, everyone, if we reach 100,000 subscribers tonight, David Wood will give me $5,000 tonight. So try your best.
We had a response from the Don here. So earlier, the Don asked what we would have to do, what Muslims would have to do to get us from keep going after them, when in reality we go after your prophet. So what would you have to do to keep from going after your prophet? AP said change religions, right? So he's not stopping. It doesn't matter what you do. He's still coming after your prophet. Me, and he's a former Muslim, so it makes sense for him to just keep going after your prophet nonstop. Me, I've got tons of other things I would rather be doing. I'm actually more interested in atheism and philosophical objections to Christianity because they make me think more, right? There's not a lot in Islam that makes you really think. It's a bunch of moronic stuff, right?
Bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, a bunch of silly nonsense. After reading a bunch, there are certain philosophical works. You read them, and even if you disagree with them, you walk away feeling smarter. You feel your thoughts have become more organized. Concepts have become more clear to you, right? Now so this is what I mean when I say this word, and it becomes clear and stuff. You read a collection of hadith, and you just want to go take a bath and sit in there and scrub your eyes out with soap and hot sauce.
Yeah, whenever I read the Quran, I feel like I have become much stupider. Yeah. Whenever I sit down and read another Quran verse, I feel my brain dying.
Oh,
I read it 3 times. I think it made me stupid.
The Quran is the British government of books, right? I mean, that's what it is. The Quran is the Great Britain of books. It sucks, right? I mean,
I have to be very fair here. The Quran is worse.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, because given its impact on the world, I was just.
I know.
I was just trying to make a point, but you're totally right, guys.
I know it's a good joke, but I couldn't take that. The Quran is too much of a it makes people stupid. Too stupid. It makes me stupid.
I've read some bad books in my life, and I mean like books where I read it and I'm like, why did I read that? I just read it because it was the only book I had right at the time, and I read it, and it's just like a fiction book, but there's no meaning to it, right? It's just some entertainment, and then it wasn't even well written and wasn't even that entertaining, and I could have been doing anything better with my time. So I've read some bad books in my life. The Quran is the worst book I have ever read. I would rather read a phone book than read the Quran. The only reason I read it is because people are willing to kill over it. It is so terrible, disorganized, incoherent, awful.
You know what's better than the Quran?
What?
Twilight.
Anything. Yeah, Twilight. In a heartbeat.
Is better than
no comment.
I have read Twilight and I found it more intelligent than the Quran.
Yeah, I haven't read Twilight. I hope I never do, but I have no doubt. I have no doubt that it's better than the Quran. All right, so the Don here says, my people are doing a lot about ISIS. I'm a Shia Muslim from Iraq, and we have lost thousands upon thousands of youth fighting them. What more do you expect us to do? Well, notice you were talking about the UK, right?
Leave your religion.
Yeah. Why were you fighting ISIS? Because jihadists have spent years radicalizing people, showing them that Muhammad ordered his followers to violently subjugate the world, right? And then people actually go out and do it, and then you end up with ISIS. Now, even look here. I'm a Shia Muslim, and we've lost thousands. He's only proving our point. Think about this. The Don, you say you've lost thousands upon thousands of Shia youth fighting ISIS. Why are you losing thousands upon thousands of Shia youth fighting ISIS? Do you know why? Because in the Quran, Allah orders Muslims not simply to fight unbelievers, but also to fight heretics, to fight people who pretend to be Muslims but aren't really Muslims, right? That's in the Quran, Surah 9, verse 73. Your God commands Muslims to fight people who aren't truly Muslim. Do ISIS jihadis view you Shias as true Muslims? No. So what are they commanded? What are they commanded to do by Allah? They're commanded to go and fight you. Do you believe ISIS jihadis are true Muslims? No. So what are you commanded to do? You're supposed to go and fight them. Why are you killing each other? Because of Allah and Muhammad. So if we want to stop you from dying, if we want to see the bloodshed end, if we want to see Sunnis and Shias be safe, what do we have to do? We have to undermine people's confidence in Allah and the Quran and Muhammad, right? That's the only way we can stop this bloodshed and violence, right? Keep in mind, who's getting killed? Of all the things you could be doing right now, you're criticizing us, right? Yeah. And that's exactly the point I made, right? There are jihadis being radicalized right now. The next generation of ISIS fighters. It won't be ISIS, it'll be something else. But the next generation of jihadis is being radicalized right now. What are you doing? You're complaining about us for going after the Prophet who is radicalizing them. Do you not see how weird and distorted and warped and twisted that is? That we are doing what will end the bloodshed, right? Because guess what? Politicians, soldiers, they can do stuff to stop ISIS, right? They can't do, until they do something about the ideology that gives rise to ISIS, they haven't solved the problem. So the solution to the problem is going after the ideology. That's what we do. And you don't want us to. So you want us to what? You want us to just ignore the problem. If we ignore the problem, if people ignore the problem, if Muhammad's views and claims are not challenged, what happens? Well, jihadis go recruit more people, radicalize more people. They go to kill more people. You have to fight them back. Thousands upon thousands die, as you've stated. And that's what you want, right? That's what I pointed out the problem was, right? That's what, when you initially asked the question, I said, you guys, you go deal with the problem. You said, oh, we are dealing with the problem. No, you're dealing with the symptom of the problem. The problem is Muhammad's teachings and commands. The symptom is all these people dying. You say, oh, but we're thousands of us are dying. Yeah, but that doesn't deal with the problem, right? It's just, you kill some jihadis, but more jihadis are coming. More jihadis are coming for your Shia brothers. Why? Because they're commanded to fight people who aren't living according to the teachings of Muhammad and the rightly guided caliphs. So
if you want to solve the problem, if you want to defeat ISIS and solve the entire problem, read the Quran, read the Hadith, or read the Shia Hadith, read the Shia sources, and eventually,
stay away from Islam. So you're getting it here, right? It's amazing. Some people like the Don look at us as enemies. We're trying to help him, right?
Absolutely.
We're here to help you.
We are not hating you. We are not your enemies. We're trying to help you. That's what this stands for here, for example. That's what that stands for. This is for you, for your own good.
Yeah. The Don, do you go to the doctor and he says, hey, you got this infection. I need to give you this medicine. You're like, why are you attacking me? Is that what you do? Come on. What do I have to do to get you to stop attacking me with this medicine that will heal me? Come on. We're here to help you, man.
If you have AIDS, I'll tell you to... I won't tell you to stay away from AIDS. I'll try to help you, but in this case, stay away from Islam.
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean,
all right.
The world has problems. I mean, we could solve a lot of them, but if people just obeyed AP's coffee cup, right?
Yeah, it is. It is as simple.
All right,
$50.
we definitely have to be wrapped up here in the next 8 minutes because we don't want to go over 2. But here's one.
Okay.
Now I don't know how much. Do you study philosophy? Because we have a question about our favorite philosophers here.
Which philosopher depends?
It's just who's your favorite philosopher? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, I used to study philosophy years ago. I don't know. I think when I was in high school,
Averroes and Avicenna. They were Muslim. They were Muslim. They were kind of Muslim philosophers.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. I was always into reading Nietzsche because he was so edgy, but that's just me.
Oh wow, that is like. He would be last on my list. I did like his edginess, though. He said some hilarious stuff. He was out there, but he was also mental. So I kind of like the mental part.
Well, he says some pretty crazy stuff. If you actually read the books, he says some pretty crazy stuff where you think, how did this guy make it into being so known and respected? But but he's very edgy. Yeah. It's an interesting read when you're a younger person.
Yeah. He actually eventually went completely nuts, had a mental breakdown, hugging a horse. Interesting individual. My favorite would probably be Aristotle. My favorite writer would be Plato, much better writer. But Aristotle, just in terms of, he's the one who, Plato would write dialogues and he would include philosophical content in the writings and whatever points he was trying to make. But Aristotle's the guy who comes up with the idea of, hey, I'm just going to sit down and write everything that can be written on this topic. So I'm going to write everything that can be known about physics. I'm going to do zoological researches. Back then there was no separation between science and philosophy. But Aristotle, he's the one who said that all men by nature desire to know. That's what separates you from everything else. And I haven't seen anyone who exhibits that more thoroughly than Aristotle. He actually went out and tried to write on and understand every topic imaginable, and said lots of things that we wouldn't agree with today. But man, brilliant, insanely brilliant dude. That's what's amazing. I mean, if you made a list of like the top 10 philosophers of all time, you had 3 of them back to back. Yeah, you had Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle all back to back right there.
But the best one was still to be born, and my number one is Muhammad. Yeah.
He certainly was.
Muhammad is my favorite philosopher.
Yeah. Oh, but I have there can be favorite philosophers for different reasons. So, again, Plato, probably the favorite writer, Aristotle, favorite all-around philosopher, but Diogenes, favorite trash-talking philosopher, ultimate troll. There was never anyone before or since Diogenes who could talk trash. Today, he would be the world's most famous roaster. Brilliant dude.
You know what the problem with me is? I had this thing. I used to have these constant conversations with a friend who was so much into philosophy because he studied philosophy, and he talked so much about Spinoza, and I was quite interested. And I heard so much about Spinoza before. I read so much before, but then I sat down one day and started actually reading stuff that he said or wrote.
That's some rough stuff.
And then I realized how much confusion there is in the stuff that philosophers wrote. So it's the thing is, if you sit down now in the 21st century and start reading all the stuff those famous philosophers have said about the world, about perception, about the world around us, and this and that, you find some things pretty weird and just think of it as weird.
Yeah.
So you have to really put yourself into their into their time, into their position, and think about it from that perspective.
Yeah,
otherwise it gets very, very weird.
There is one interesting thing, because what you said is true, right? Like if you read Plato's dialogues, most of what's in there we would regard as utter nonsense. What's really interesting is when 2,400 years later, they've still got an awesome argument, and that is the main argument. The main argument of Plato's Republic about why it's always better to do the right thing rather than the wrong thing, or always better to be just rather than unjust. apart from an answer involving theism, I've never seen a better response than that one. So that's something that I would say stands the test of time. I think it's again one of the greatest answers that's ever been given. And then Aristotle, his ethical system that he lays out in the Nicomachean Ethics. When people lay out the main ethical theories that are around still today, as far as why you should do certain things, you've got utilitarianism, deontology, things like that. But Aristotle's virtue ethics is still up there with the top 4 or 5 ethical theories. So it's always interesting when because again, people were in a totally different world, totally different situations. Really, really odd times, and yet if they come up with something that can stand for thousands of years as a good response, that's interesting stuff. One more here, and we'll wrap it up. Dason says, "I heard Aisha was really 21. Have you heard this before?"
It's you know how it goes. We have multiple sources. We have multiple sources, very authentic ones, which Sunni Muslims especially hold for completely true. I mean, that's how hadith work. That's how basic Islamic jurisprudence. That's how hadith work. If you have multiple hadith that all come from authentic sources like Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, and you can look at the narrators, and you can see that the narrators are authenticated and verified, and you have multiple, you have 2, 3, or 4 of these reports, and all of them say the same thing, which in this case is that Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6 and consummated the marriage when she was 9. Then this means ultimately, definitely, that she was 6 at marriage and 9 at consummation. There is absolutely no way out of this. What people do is just that they take secondary sources, secondary unreliable sources that no one in history ever has regarded as authentic or reliable or verifiable, and based on those sources, kind of try to rationalize and find that Aisha's age is somehow 21. It's ridiculous, because what you're doing here is disregarding 4 books that stand in front of you that hundreds of historians have looked at and agreed on that they are authentic. You disregard all of those because it seems uncomfortable to you, the fact that Aisha was 6 years old and 9 years old at consummation, and instead you look at some dirty little book with sand in it that no one even respects, and think this is the absolute truth because that conforms, because that makes you feel comfortable with your religion. That is, yeah.
Yeah, so this argument comes from, as he pointed out, Muslims who are embarrassed about their prophet. The sources across the board say that she was 9. You occasionally find an exception that says she was 10. But the overwhelming majority of their most trusted sources say she was 9 years old, and there's nothing that says she was 21. They get that date by piecing together a bunch of circumstantial details, which are always contradicting each other, and then adding a bunch of assumptions in there, and then they get a ridiculous date when Aisha says, "Married me when I was 6." Consummated the marriage when I was 9, died when I was 18. So we have a complete timeline there. If they want a case for something else, they need to make a good case, and they make extraordinarily bad cases. Those bad cases are only persuasive to people who know nothing about Islam. So unfortunately, they are able to deceive a lot of people.
Very important point. The hadiths are traced back to Aisha. So Aisha herself says that she was 6 at marriage and 9 at consummation, and we can really trace those back, and those are verified by early Islamic scholars and by Islamic scholars until the 21st century. So there is nothing to question.
Yep. All right, we'll wrap it up now. Just one more thing, because when we're talking about philosophers, Paul O'Brien here said David Hume. David Hume is also on my list of favorites. People say, how can you believe in David Hume when he criticized theism so much? Well, you can be brilliant and put things forward in a brilliant fashion, which Hume did. The dialogues concerning natural religion, it's an attack on theism, but absolutely brilliant. One of the greatest works of philosophy ever. And a lot of people misinterpret it. A lot of atheists misinterpret it and think that Hume's actually arguing for atheism. He's arguing for a kind of deism. It's been called the indifferent deity hypothesis. That yes, there is a designer, but He just doesn't, is not one who's interested in what we do. But absolutely brilliant writer. So, matter of fact, in terms of writing, probably be Plato my favorite, and then Hume number 2 as far as the writers. So, yeah. All right. Well, we've been going for over 2 hours now, so we're going to wrap up.
We wanted to do 1 hour. Yeah.
Yeah. We said that right before the show, right? Said an hour,
Yeah.
right? And anyway, this always happens. But thanks, everyone, for joining us. We still have 900 people who are watching live. And I'll be traveling this weekend. I'm going out to Phoenix for a conference. You can find information on that on my site if you're in the Phoenix area. So I won't be online for a couple days. But when I get back, we'll be getting to some interesting issues. So, again, the Apostate Prophet's YouTube channel link is in the description box, so be sure to subscribe. You might even be the 100,000th subscriber who gets all the riches and glory of being the 100,000th subscriber. And
Who gets this mug?
Yep, and we'll be coming out. We got some awesome stuff coming your way. In fact, after this weekend, you're getting one of the most epic videos I've ever made in my entire life. I've made I think close to 1,000 videos now. This one definitely, I would say, in the top 5. What I'm working on now. It's called Jihadi Klansman. Jihadi Klansman. About the KKK converting to Islam once they find out that it's a white prophet with black slaves who hates Jews.
I'm excited. I'm absolutely excited.
You don't want to miss that, everyone. All right. Catch y'all later.
All right. Thank you so much. Stay away from Islam.
And stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Islam.
Stay away, too.